Good morning again. Dennis and I are going to interweave the words from the Bible, and Hanson asked me to share my belief story as it relates to Nepal, where I was trekking a year ago during the earthquake. And so I'm nervous. I've never had this role before, and I'm going to read most of it. But I was in Nepal, which is a small country north of India and south of China. Dennis? I extrapolated.
A reading from the first book of Kings. Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. This is the word of the Lord.
And that particular Bible verse comes from a bigger story that talks about Elijah hiding in a cave until God uses all those ways of getting him to come out. And so part of my story is about what ways I'm learning how to come out in. I believe that God gives us many glimpses into the beauty of paradise here on earth. Here in Colorado, dense pine and aspen forests purify our air. We breathe deep into our abdomens because the air is so sweet here. Evenings gift us with silences so deep that our ears ring. Snow-capped mountain peaks pierce our cerulean blue skies. We choose our routes home to see those peaks and those views even more clearly. Even on anxious days, our inner voices admonish us to cease rushing and breathe deeply. God tells us to look around and to breathe. In Nepal, after a few days in the smoggy, stimulus-crazy capital of Kathmandu, I fly in a small plane over wrinkled landscapes to 8,000 feet high Lukla, a small guide town clinging in terraces of buildings to a very vertical runway. 2 hours after arriving in Lukla, my group of 5 begins to walk in the Bodhikoshi Valley along a cobblestone to dirt to river stone pathway, up and down and up and down. Trekking in Nepal is kind of like walking up and down Magnolia a couple times a day. In Nepal, the Himalayan peaks make our Rocky Mountain peaks look like hills. The Himalayans arch out like guardian angels over our heads. Just looking up consistently makes me smile. And it's so beautiful. You really don't need to know the names of the peaks. You just look and go, oh, it's beautiful. We 5 trek slowly through terraced fields separated by low stone walls, trudge through showy pink drifts of rhododendron trees, past blue-rimmed rock homes in the tiny contiguous villages, among impossibly green undergrowth. People that we meet, fellow trekkers and resident Nepali and Sherpa peoples, smile and share beauty. Whether we speak the same language of words doesn't matter. The sharing matters. In many places, God gives us beauty and suggests that we enjoy it and that we share it. And may we remember to glorify this gift of beauty. I believe that many times God grants us an override of pain and discomfort. Half into this first day of trekking, my right heel starts to ache. I slow my pace and keep trudging. I rearrange my socks. I overheat from pain, so I remove clothing layers. It's embarrassing to finish, accompanied by one young minimal English-speaking porter, 1/2 to a full day behind the other 3 members of my group for the next 2 days. Our phones don't work, so we have no communication between the 2 groups most of the time. Sometimes the 2 porters' phones work, and sometimes not. I often stop to rest on low walls before continuing to walk. Even though a porter carries most of my gear, I struggle to walk with my light pack and heavy boots on an aching foot. Each footfall hurts. I begin to skip stopping at highlighted monasteries in my daily struggle to regain my group by evening, where I take my precious rationed out Advils. On the third trek day, the most explosive diarrhea I've ever experienced leaves me sobbing in an outdoor toilet. As I cry and wash things into a trough that the stream runs in and out of, I wonder in shame and humiliation whose downstream drinking water I'm befouling. Then I limp on. My porter and I run out of water. We walk on. Rest upon arrival at lodging that night is especially welcome. As a reunited group, we decide that my progress is too slow to allow the other two trekkers and porter to reach the distances and heights upon which the trek was organized. So 2 trekkers and 1 porter will go ahead to Everest Base Camp. The plan is that my porter and I will reunite with our group that night, go over Renjo Pass at 17,000 feet elevation together, rest the next day at the foot of the pass at Gokyo Lake at 15,700 feet elevation. Then we too will go down a parallel valley, and the stronger group will go on the designated trek. The decision is obvious, but very sad for me. On the 4th day, outdistanced early by my healthier colleagues, I begin to feel physically better as I hobble up to tundra at 11,000 feet, a comfortable elevation for my previous hikes in Colorado. Upon reaching my rendezvous village in late afternoon, I go from lodge to lodge until finally receiving a note at the last lodge that my group has gone on over the pass to beat the changing weather. It begins to blizzard. My porter and I strategize. His boots gape with holes. I have no extra boots. I have Yak's tracks for ice. He doesn't. He owns 2 pairs of shredded polyester pants. We split my doubles of wind pants, long underwear, alpaca sweatshirts, double gloves, and hats. We have no tent. We have no water filter. The 1 emergency tent and water filter have already gone over the pass with the lead group. I have a sleeping bag. He has none. He's been over the pass on previous trips and knows the way, but we've been warned by descending Sherpas that the pass is treacherously deeper in snow this year, and that there are no more supply villages nor lodging until the foot of the pass on the other side. We sleep. We breakfast at the lodge, buy a lunch, and start our trek at 5:30 a.m. The night snow has not accumulated beyond 6 inches due to wind, but the blizzard has renewed and visibility is low. My heel, with my plantar fasciitis, is especially painful this morning. The porter's pack falls apart. My hand is cut as I help him re-rope it. A search through backpacks for a Band-Aid to stop the bleeding is difficult in the blizzard. The snow is accumulating rapidly. The porter is slipping on the ice. My Yak's tracks are still holding secure footing, but my limping is very discouraging. Our progress is minuscule. I decide that we're turning back and retreating down the same valley. Our obstacles seem to support this decision. We reach our previous lodge several hours later. The blizzard is turning to heavy rain, and we trudge on. 1 hour later, I'm limping along a sandy path along a cliff overlooking a river below. A roaring noise starts, the earth shakes, huge boulders tumble past me. I run, hoping that the path turns away from the riverbank before rocks will overtake me and roll me down. My porter is shouting, "Bistari, Bistari!" Slowly, slowly. The path turns. 2 children walking home from a rural school run towards us screaming. We 4 huddle and hug till the shaking stops. I believe that God protects me and strengthens my resilience. Eventually the rocks fall and the shaking stops. The rain continues. The children stop crying and walk on. We are unsure what to do next. We follow the children and enter their home. The little girl industriously sweeps up broken glass. The boy talks to my porter in his Sherpa language. My porter speaks Nepali and about as much Sherpa as he speaks English. Very little. His translation leaves me with questions. I ask the boy questions in English, which he has studied in school. Mom's in another village. Dad is guiding up on Everest. 2 other children enter. The boy says they are neighbors. All of the children seem uncomfortable with our presences. I wish I could have reassured them, but we seem to be causing additional trauma by staying. The children said they have food and do not want ours. The house seems intact, even though the outside latrine is caved in. I hope other adults come, and we walk on through the driving rain. We drop our packs to follow a yak that's loaded with rice bags, but find no associated person. The river is flooding. We see women searching through a crushed village for survivors in the village across the river. We see other villagers crossing the surging river on stones as the bridge has collapsed and they are going for help. Through the rain, we walk past many collapsed thatched huts below the cliffs of the riverbank. I stand in the rain with the backpacks and send the porter to help the villagers pull beams off a man that's trapped under a house. I tell some villagers about the unattended children that we left. The villagers erect an expedition tent to shelter the extracted man. A French doctor pronounces that the man will recover. I try to carry both packs and limp on towards the lodges where we had stayed 2 nights before. I'm shivering from hypothermia and exhaustion, and I can't lift the packs. I wait in the rain for the porter and send him ahead to search for shelter as I soldier slowly on. There is no shelter in that village. We eat our lunch out of the rain under a stone gate, but can't stay there because the porter has no sleeping bag. We walk on through the rain for several hours to another village where we sleep in a lodge through part of the night until aftershocks put everyone in the street at midnight. We have walked through snow then rain for 10 hours that day. The next day, without rain, we reach a small city, Namche, where most hotels, banks, restaurants, and shops are closed. Owners and families are sleeping above the city in a cow pasture to escape buildings falling on them during the rolling aftershocks, which are more frequent now. We have only my sleeping bag, so we can't stay in the cow pasture. The porter finds a Sherpa guide lodge that has food and some rooms. There we eat with the injured Sherpa ice doctors who have been evacuated from Everest Base Camp by helicopter due to the huge avalanche triggered by the earthquake. At the Sherpa lodge, the owners sleep outside in tents, but let the trekkers pay to sleep inside under cover in the 2-story building, although again, midnight whistles to evacuate due to aftershocks call us outside. There's internet access at the Sherpa lodge. We still can't communicate with our other 3 group members, but I can borrow someone's iPad to write emails home and to contact Global Rescue for assistance. After 2 days of hobbling through more aftershocks and tumbled villages, we finally reach Lukla. I pay the porter and give him my clothes that he has worn for 4 days. I cry myself to sleep in a room the size of a closet with a door that has a sliding lock bar but gaps between it and the door frame. I'm exhausted and alone. I'm tired of urinating and pooping into a hole at night. My porter has lied to me about needing to hustle so he can rush to his village and help his family as his personal house continues to fall in. Instead, I find him, wearing my clothes, happily waiting to go on his next expedition. My luck begins to turn. I can now carry my own equipment since I own less. A bank is open, so now I can afford to eat. My Global Rescue insurance moves me to the front of crowded lines of trekkers waiting to leave for Kathmandu on irregular planes, flying through more rain and fog. In Kathmandu, I do not qualify for injury evacuation, but receive more assistance from Global Rescue. My previous hotel is still standing and receives me. Even though my room has no water, I'm allowed to use the shower in someone else's room while they were out. A shower. My sister wires me money for a plane ticket through Turkey. The rest of the trip home to the U.S. is fraught with continuous delays and crises, but I have shelter nightly and food daily. I can still limp along. Eventually, I arrived home to Mid-Gilpin, Colorado, traumatized but safe. When home, I learned that the other parts of my group have also survived and were headed to the U.S. Dennis?
Today's second reading is from Luke and pertains to when Jesus was being criticized by the Pharisees for receiving and eating with sinners. So he told them this parable. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one which is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep, which was lost. This is the word of the Lord.
And Hansen chose those passages, so I'm relating them in as best I can. But it's hard to leave 99 sheep and find and save myself only. It feels selfish. There's rejoicing, but there's also sadness and regret, and I'm still working on that conflict within myself. I believe that God forgives his shame and guilt if the person's desire to do good is stronger than his or her desire to harm. I've spent over a year in recovery. Physically, several cortisone shots, acupuncture, deep tissue manipulation, updated orthotics, and heel cups have made it possible for me to walk normally again. I bike, swim, and take hikes now for up to 3 hours. Emotionally, counseling through multiple wiser people has helped me live with my deep shame and guilt. And not having had the strength to investigate all the collapsed homes that I passed by, and to, as a teacher, have left behind children unaccompanied by an adult. As a teacher, I've always kept children safe. As a teacher of anti-bullying programs, I have for years taught against the role of passive bystander. So it's hard for me to listen to my counselor's advice and trust that sometimes others will more effectively and efficiently intervene in a dangerous situation. It's difficult for me to begin to embrace the role of witness instead of fixer. I believe that God loves me and provides me with many opportunities to love and help others. I've sent money to a collapsed rural hospital, to the staff of the hotel that sheltered me, to Risham's Nepali family, who actually was much closer to the epicenter than I was. The shame, guilt, and helplessness are still there, but less pronounced. I'm learning about roles other than solver. I work hard in my family and my community. My reactiveness has lessened as my reflection increases. I believe that we have continuous reasons to be grateful, in the moment especially. And at times, after stepping back from a crisis moment, we reflect. For the past 4 years, I've been following a practice that brings me closer to God. I awaken upon and meditate at least 10 reasons why I'm grateful for starting the day. And before I go to bed, I meditate with 10 reasons why I'm grateful for the day as it's gone. And these are very easy prayers. As I flip prayer flags attached to my deck railing, I send out specific intentions to many who still struggle. I'm thankful for feeling protected, for my family, acquired as well as biological, for hot water to bathe in and water to drink, for food, for shelter, for communities, for movement, for time to think beyond surviving, for the opportunities to serve and atone for the many mistakes that I make. Thank you for my reasons for listening, for thanking God for the life I'm given.